Okay, yeah, so till now we learn on the Git. So we started with the DevOps, then we learn about the Linux use cases and importance of the Linux in the DevOps. And after that we continue with the Docker, correct? So the next part is we need to be learn on the Jenkins, which is very important tool. And in every DevOps related interview, uh, that interview will be not complete with the Jenkins question, correct? So you will be get the Jenkins related questions, queries, and they will ask like real time scenarios, or they will check like expertise in the Jenkins, correct? So how the Jenkins looks like, what are the setup steps for that? Yeah, that we are going to learn in the next couple of session. So as an prerequisite, we should have idea about the Linux. Then the next step is the Docker, correct? So I hope you guys have already started with the required assignments and refreshing those particular sessions which we had taken previously with the Linux as well as the Docker, correct? So now this is the main area of the DevOps, correct? So when we are talking about DevOps, we need to be have the build, we need to have the deployment with an automated cycle by integrating multiple tools and best practices, correct? So the Jenkins is a very important tool. So there are means another alternatives are also there for the Jenkins like GitHub Action or Circle CI is also there. Other multiple tools are there, correct too, which is achieving the CI/CD and the complete DevOps cycle. But as Jenkins is open source and it's the support is available for the Jenkins or multiple integrations are there, they are providing required support for that. And with this, we can automate our build and Jenkins automation related cycle, correct? So not only for the development, we can have the integration with the JUnit test, then we can have the QA automation test related things. We can integrate the testing setup with the Jenkins, as well as we can deploy it on the production related things, correct? So almost Jenkins is providing like 1,000 plus integrations with plugin capabilities with us. So yeah, eventually when we started with the Jenkins setup, that idea will be clear. But this is the expected view of the Jenkins pipeline, correct? So developers are working on the multiple features and they are working on the GitHub. But for the building that and deploying that with an automated way, or building the containerized thing with the Docker or deploying it with the Kubernetes, they require certain installations and tools for their integration, correct? So with this diagram, you will be able to understand the expected view of the Jenkins pipeline. So they have pushed that particular code. So how to add the code, how the Git works, how the public and private Git repository works, that part we have already learned so far in the previous session. So I hope that is clear. Uh, that is clear, correct, Pratik or the Priyanka? So that part is clear, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's start on the completing those assignments. Share that assignment details on the common group so that I will be also get idea like what you are doing and have you completed that or not. So as a next step means we are going to learn this Jenkins as I have mentioned in today's session. So this is the expected you once changes committed on the Git, that branch can be anything. You can start the build process for that, correct? So you can commit the changes, then build will be start. Once that build will be start, it will complete the automated JUnit test for that. Once that is done, it will deploy, it will build the Docker container, it will push that Docker container on the Docker registry. Once that is completed, it can create the Helm chart or the Kubernetes related configuration files for that in an automated way. Correct. So there is nothing happen with an manual efforts here. So you can automate everything by using Jenkins cycle. And as a definition for the continuous integration, that is something like whenever the commits are happen on the shared repository by multiple user, there should be automatic checks pass for the JUnits as well as automated test, and required build happen automatically. Correct. So that is the continuous integration. So on every new change, whenever the commit happen, build and required part for JUnit tests as well as automation tests happen automatically. That is the definition of continuous integration. Correct. And continuous deployment is something like all checks, necessary checks pass when the commit happen, and deployment is also happen with an automated way. So that is the part of the continuous deployment cycle. And for that, we require certain integration with the automation where we can implement the infrastructure as a core concept, as well as we can have the integration with the Ansible or the Nchart related component where we can deploy our application on Kubernetes as well as non-Kubernetes cluster. So with this diagram, I'm showcasing like there it can be having the multiple environment for those particular deployment, like that this is the development cluster for the Docker deployment. So once feature branch user is able to test there, they can give their QA drop, and that QA can be verify on the staging cluster. So once that is approved, they can deploy on the production cluster. So this is an expected view of the pipeline, and every check is dependent on the next process. Correct. So if the primary checks are passed, then only it will go on the next step. So that is something like the Jenkins pipeline. So you can build that pipeline, you can automate any particular application. So you can imagine the use case like you are having the Java application, or you are having the NPM application, or you are having the Go application, any tech stack. So for that, you require certain integration, you require certain tools with you, you require certain access with you. And once that is done, you can develop pipeline for those applications. So build and deployment part, you can automate easily. Okay. So you just have to idea about how these tools can be integrated with each other, how this SDLC process look like, and what is the expectation for the every application. Correct. So once you start with integrating this, you can automate everything. You just need to be have idea about the DevOps tools, DevOps best practices, and CI/CD related part as well. So that's why means when we start with this particular journey and when we started with this particular session, in very first session, I focus on understanding what is DevOps, what are the DevOps use cases, and what is the expectation from the DevOps engineer, correct? So let's start understanding those things if that is not clear. So you can ask the questions, queries in between in case you have any doubts. So is it clear? Like what is the expected view of the pipeline and the scenario? Like if the Java application is there, let's say Go application is there, or the PHP or Python application there, how the build and deployment happens. In every application, this is an expected view of the pipeline. Okay, build and deployment using the Jenkins integration. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, there is a dev tested after deployment to dev. That part I have a little bit confusion. Means after deployment of developer cluster, it go for like test or what?
Yeah, so this is an expectation. So developer, they can test on the local as well, correct? Before pushing the code. So they will test everything. Once they confident, then only it will give for the code reviews or the next step, correct? For the QA. Okay. So developers are doing testing on the two places. One is their own local machine on or local laptop, but they have to do the integration on the environment, correct? Where that particular component is dependent on other components. So let's say you are deploying backend, but backend for verifying backend end to end, you require UI as well, correct? So in that case, UI application will also have their pipeline, backend application also will have their pipeline, and they can deploy it on dev integration environment. Okay. So once the deployment is completed, they both UI engineer as well as backend engineer can be verify those changes on the developer integration environment. So this is not the testing cluster, correct? This is the developer cluster or the testing integration related changes before giving the QA drop, before giving that changes to the tester. Okay. So they can have their development integration environment. So I hope this part is clear now.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
So if for integration, they require this dedicated cluster.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So once they both are confident, like UI, then database related changes or backend engineer, they will merge that change on the QA branch and they can give the QA or testing drop for the QA engineers. So when I'm talking about QA or developer is doing the code changes with the editor. Correct. QA are nothing but the quality assurance engineers. Correct. So testing engineers. They are dedicatedly doing the testing of an application. That application can be mobile application, web application, websites, or the API or the UI related integrations are there, or the analytics or the Hadoop related clusters are there. Correct. So application can be anything that can be from the any technology, but they will be perform the testing for that particular feature. So that is nothing but the testing cluster. So similar setup you need to deploy there as well. So here the use case come like in case you are having the Docker image in Docker, you can spin up that Docker cluster on the Kubernetes easily. You can spin up that Docker image on a testing Kubernetes cluster as well. So here the environment wise only the configuration is different, correct? Like dev environment, here the QA environment. But both are using same OS, same installations and same binary or same code. So that is the power of the Docker container. Correct. So Docker can be run on any machine, but it will behave the same on the multiple machines. So if it's working with giving some A output on the developer cluster, it will give the same output on the testing cluster as well. Because code, operating system, and necessary things are you getting this? Yes or no? Hello. I hope I am audible clearly. Mangesh, Pratik, Priyanka. Hello, I am audible. Mangesh, Pratik, Priyanka, I am audible or not?
Hello.
Yeah, I am audible or not?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Yeah. So I have asked this question means are you clear with this or not for
Yeah,
Docker
yeah.
related?
Yes, sir, for like this start to end, how process will be like goes, I'm clear.
Okay. Yeah. So based on the approval, you can have the approval scenarios as well. So let's say you want to implement like these approval should be there for the QA team to pass that build to the production. You can implement that. So Jenkins is giving those particular capability where you can integrate those things and based on the approval that flow will be go on the next step. So once they have provided necessary approval from the necessary people, then only it will go for the production. So you can automate all these things like in case you want to add some checks like build should be fail in case some criteria is not met for the JUnit test like 90% or 80% rated threshold is not there, let's fail the build. Or in case you want to add like if the QA approval is not there, it should not go for production. So in case any particular approval is not there from the infrastructure team, it should not go for the next step. So you can implement all these things in the Jenkins and you can automate that. So that is the expected view of this particular pipeline. And Jenkins tool is open source, correct? So you can easily automate that. So for that, you just need to be download Jenkins image. For learning purpose, you can do this setup on the local machine. So currently, I'm having my Jenkins image. So let's say currently I'm doing Docker PS. Image is not there. I'm checking like Jenkins image is there or not. So I have already downloaded it. So here, by using this particular command, you can execute like the Jenkins Docker image I have already added with LTS version, and I have already run that in the past. So here you can able to see the Jenkins Docker images there. Similarly, that you can go on the Google and just search Jenkins Docker image. Okay. So you will be get like Jenkins official image on the Docker Hub as well. So it will give the commands to pull the Docker image as well as running that particular Docker image. So here you can see like this is the particular tag for the Jenkins, and by using that you can pull this Docker image as well as you can run that. Okay. So that's why means when I have talked about like I have given some prerequisite like you should be having idea about the Docker as well as Linux, then only you can learn the Jenkins and the Git as well, correct? So Git is also necessary thing before starting with the Jenkins. So let's start completing those assignments in case you haven't started it. So for running the Jenkins, you need to be execute this command Docker run. Then minus P option is for the port related part where you can add the internal and external port. Minus P option for this TCP related port is also there. So two port you are adding for the running the Jenkins. This is the name of the Jenkins Docker image. Similarly, you can mount the Jenkins volume as well, correct? So you can run the command by using minus V option where you can have the persistent volume for that so that in case Docker image restarted, you can save this particular data on your machine, correct? So your data will be not lost. So that is also the another thing which you need to be learn on. So Jenkins volume or this volume mounting concept help you to save this particular data on your machine, correct? So I will always recommend go with the volume mount related part so that your data will be not lost. Whatever the work you are doing, that will be not lost, and it will be save that particular data on your machine. So in Jenkins, we can create the jobs, we can install the required plugins, we can also have the required integrations with the multiple other tools such as Git and Maven. We can create the pipeline related jobs. We can also have the backup related functionality. We can add the code base by using the shell scripting, GUI scripting. We can have the email integration, Slack integration, or other notification related integrations as well. So Jenkins is also having the monitoring plugin where we can showcase the data for the Jenkins related usage like CPU and RAM. That is also possible. So as an prerequisite, I have showcased like means you need to have the Docker image. So you can verify the Docker setup by using that. And you can pull this particular Docker image and run this particular command. So once you run it, Jenkins UI will be loaded and this will be loaded on the Jenkins this particular port like 8080 port is also there. So these are certain steps for starting with Jenkins. So today we discuss about how to start with Jenkins, then expected view or expected view of the pipeline related integration. And for Jenkins start setup, you should have the Linux machine with you. Also, you can have the integration with required part for the Docker container, as well as you can also integrate it with the volume mounting related path as well. Correct. So these are some core concept of the Jenkins. Okay. So here is the steps for integrating Jenkins or doing the Docker setup with the volume mounting concept. So as I have mentioned, you need to be create Docker volume. So these are the commands for that. You can run that particular Jenkins by using -p option where you can pass the port. We will start this setup. I mean, I'm just going walk through about this Jenkins setup with the current session. Then that Jenkins UI will be loaded, correct? So it will ask for adding particular key. So it will load on the port which we are adding in the run option. So here you can see like Jenkins UI is load and it asks for the particular key to add for doing first level login. Once that login is completed, you can configure the required plugins with the Jenkins, correct? So here are the example where we can add the certain plugins in the Jenkins in first setup. It will start this. By default, it will install the certain plugins for that. You can always choose the install suggested plugin option. Once that is completed, we can create the user for that, correct? So we can create the user. We can also pass this particular URL of the Jenkins, and then Jenkins UI will be looks like, correct? So these are certain steps for that. So once that is started, you can able to spin up your Jenkins setup, and you can add such pipeline as well, correct? So you can also have this pipeline related integration, as well as uh, you can add those particular settings and integrate your application with the CI/CD pipeline. So you can design your framework, CI/CD framework or Devops framework by integrating these particular tools. So Git and Jenkins, these are means very important skill set of the every DevOps engineer. And as I have mentioned, like with these particular tools, you can easily complete that. So Docker we already learned, Linux we already learned, and now we are learning this Jenkins part, correct? Where the we can start this Jenkins by using the volume mounting concept. Okay, so this is the particular blog link where we are going to learn in the next session, where we can create this Docker volume. So I have created all these steps here with the previous session as well. So let me see if my older Docker image is there. If that is there, I can just start that. Okay. You see the Docker PS is there. Now the Jenkins is running. I can do the Docker logs related part. So here you can see my request setup is up and running. Let me check the processes with the Docker PS. I can able to see that setup is up, and that is up on 8080 port. So now if I execute the localhost 8080 port, here I can able to see my Jenkins UI is up currently. I hope means you are able to see this UI of the Jenkins setup. Mangesh, Pratik, Priyanka.
Yes, sir.
So here, right now I have did already this setup. So that's why means this all things are already there. But you can refer this particular blog, correct? Where I have showcased like how to do complete this setup. So you just require Docker related part and then you can do the login. So here my this is very interesting stuff, correct? So I have already integrated this and I have created these multiple pipeline related jobs. I can also have the blue ocean view for this, correct? So Here I can see all this build and deployment integration I have added already, correct? So you can build this by using build now option. So here you can give the build. It will clone the code base, correct? So I have integrated that with this particular Git repo. So here you can see I'm able to pull the Git for this particular branch, and I have started some integrations with the pipeline. And here you can able to see like I can add the certain stages for build, test, and deploy. So I can also wait for the input. Let's say I want to give some message like, do you want to proceed with deployment? Yes or no. I can select that. I can abort that. Correct. So let's say if I push it, it will complete for the next step. Correct. So this is how means you can integrate this, and we are going to learn this from the scratch. Correct. How to do this, how to achieve this. So in today's session, I have showcased like previously did example, but eventually we are starting this from the beginning, from the scratch. Okay, so that we are going to learn in the next session. So in today's session, what we have understand like how the Jenkins looks like, what is the expected view of the pipeline. We can have the build process, we can have the test stages, we can have the deployment stages. For that we require like Linux operating system on local to start with the learning related part. We require Docker on that particular machine. We can pull the Jenkins Docker image, and then we require the GitHub related prerequisite that we learned in the previous session. Once that is done, you can have the Jenkins setup, and in Jenkins setup, you can have your own jobs related configurations. Correct. So you can integrate or you can create the jobs. You can also have the user management with it. How to achieve that, how to do this every step, that we are going to learn in next couple of session. Today's session is just for understanding Jenkins view, Jenkins related use cases, what is actual DevOps engineer are doing for the Jenkins setup. Correct. So that we have learned so far. And this is how means Jenkins UI looks like. Here the user, they can able to create multiple users. They can have the admin related access with the manage Jenkins. They can create the pipeline related projects. They can also give the builds, and these particular builds are there for this particular application. Correct. So right now means I have already integrated this for certain Git project. So this project is available on this particular path. So you can open that and you can able to see like I have added this Java application for integration related purpose, and I can add the build part with the automated job. Correct. So that jobs are nothing but the scheduler which you can configure with the Jenkins pipeline or the freestyle related job. What is freestyle? What is pipeline job, that we are going to learn in next couple of sessions. But yeah, this is how means you can integrate this, and you can also have the Jenkins file related syntax. That syntax is something like coding part. Some minor coding part is required for that. It's not like very difficult. It's easy. You just need to be have some basic idea about this. If you build or did one of the project end to end or the Jenkins automation, you can achieve this for the any language, correct? You can automate these particular things for the any particular application, any day of cited use case, or with the any integration, correct? So here you can able to see like multiple things are there. Jenkins is there, GitHub is there, Maven is there, then Docker is there, Linux is there, correct? So this is how means the DevOps related work is integrated with the multiple technologies, multiple tech stack, and you should be have idea about this in detail, correct? Like what is the expected view of the pipeline, what I need to be do as a DevOps engineer, and what I should be have idea with the tools and the integration part, correct? So let's start doing this on your local setup practically. I will not uh, recommend like just go around the videos and learn these, prepare the notes, and go on the recording. Correct. So I will also always recommend like have this everything on your machine. That will not take very long time. You can just achieve this by using spending 30 minutes or 1 hour to have this particular setup on your machine. But this will eventually give more opportunities you to grow more. Correct. So if you have all this setup with you, if you have the all idea about it with you, you can crack any interviews in the DevOps. Correct. So as I have mentioned, DevOps interview will not close with the Docker, Jenkins, Kubernetes, or Linux. Correct. These are mandatory tools which we should have idea about. Okay. And cloud part is also very essential. That is also means we'll add the extra fruits on this existing thing. So cloud in cloud like AWS, GCP, and Azure that are also very important thing in the DevOps. Okay. So yeah, this is the expected view of the Jenkins. So any queries, guys? Any questions? And this you can start by doing these particular steps. Correct. So these are very simple steps. It should not take 5 to 10 minutes to spin up your Jenkins setup on your local machine. And these are the steps, correct? These are written by me only. I have did this setup in the previously, and I have added that in my blog, DevOps Lover blog, where you can search Jenkins setup by using Docker volume. As I have mentioned, like you should be have prerequisite idea about Linux, then Docker, and then you can just have your own machine and start hitting this particular command. Correct. Okay, clear. So as an assignment
Yes,
you
sir.
need to be spin up your Jenkins machine or Jenkins setup by using Docker volume.
Okay, sir.
At least as an assignment output I required this UI. Okay, this one with empty jobs.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
I have already this. That's why means I am able to see my existing job. And as I have used the Docker volume, in case I down my Docker image, I will not lose my any data, correct? So let's say I stop the Docker container. So now, is there any running Docker image is there?
No, sir.
Yes or no?
Mm.
Hello?
No, sir.
Okay. So now UI will be, what will be happen if I refresh this UI?
History will be displayed, sir.
It should not display anything, correct? Because image is
Stop.
down. In case I want to start this, can just start by using Docker and it will showcase the UI now. Okay. Okay, it has started the Jenkins. Okay, so this is the power of Docker. You can achieve everything by using the Docker, correct? In case you have the idea about Docker, you can do anything. You can spin up any setup easily. Spinning up the setup, stopping that service, doing the check the logs. All these are means day-to-day activities of the DevOps engineer.
Sir, the name like 07C27, this is the name of Jenkins file.
This is the name of the container ID.
Container ID. Okay.
Yeah. So name of the Jenkins image is this Jenkins slash Jenkins.
Jenkins.
Okay. This is auto-generated ID, unique ID for the running Docker images. So when you are running the Docker by using Docker run command, it will generate those type of IDs.
Okay,
So I
sir.
have given so much assignments to you, correct? In very first two session only. So if you are able to do that practically, these questions will never come, correct?
Yes, sir.
These are it's basics of Docker. So now we are going on advanced DevOps related thing, right? So this Jenkins and Kubernetes is very further step. That is again means advanced to advanced. So it's clear means basic. If you are clear with the basic, advanced thing will be also you will be looks like the basic things in that case. It will not nothing is difficult.
Yes, sir.
Okay. go step by step by completing assignments. So assignments is an only one path which you can try out to get these things easily and improve on your knowledge. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can conclude this part. Any questions, queries, guys, in today's session about the Jenkins? Mangesh, Pratik, Priyanka.
No, sir.
Yeah, we can conclude this part. In case any